just, you know, there's my memories of conversations with Lizzie, of course, are so ancient.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I couldn't have been more than 7 years old when
Oh,
I was
yeah.
hanging around.
You can't.
I mean, I was like 6 or 5 when I stayed with her for 2 weeks, but there were names that came up.
You talk to Lizzie, be telling you things, and she'd be talking about people that've been dead, and you wouldn't know them anyway, you know?
Yeah, right.
You have to...
But I remember their names. I mean, I remember somebody named Loretta.
Well, you got some of the names in your mind?
Yeah.
Well, so do I. I mean, way back then, I mean, when she's talking about these people, but most of the people she's talking about already died.
Yeah, yeah.
Wasn't there one of Billy's kids, or Buster Stanley's kids, a genius? What is it?
Well, that was Margaret's husband, Gene Perrine.
Is a genius.
Gene Perrine. It was
Yeah.
Margaret's husband.
Okay.
And they had a son, Gene, and he's dead too.
Oh, it's not.
Margaret Doherty's husband, was Perrine. And young Gene died too. They went to California. Oh, you know, I was going to tell you. Margaret, Muggy, Kathleen.
The one that was crippled?
No, Uncle Jack's daughter, Muggy, Margaret. We call her Muggy for sure.
Muggy, yeah, I remember.
She always claimed that she adopted Kathleen. And I seen Kathleen at the family reunion this year, and she looked just like Muggy. Now, how the hell do you figure that out? I think she had Kathleen out of wedlock and put it through that she adopted, because that girl looks just like her mother.
When you say Uncle Jack, are you talking about John?
Yeah.
Who married Rose McLaughlin?
Yeah.
Oh, what a bitch she was.
Oh, he's just.
That poor man, what a life he had. God.
Oh, he didn't have any life at all there.
Oh, geez, I was so sorry. But he lived, he stayed to the end.
She'd come up and Satan and Liz hated to see her come. Oh, Satan got so upset one time, she jumped on Liz. Liz sat down, penned off a letter that took 2 rows and told her not to come again, and that was a hell of a family brawl there.
Yeah.
And they didn't come for a long time, they were mad at each other, and then those Majors didn't ever show up for a long time. But Liz said, she says I done it in the spirit of the moment, and I'm so sorry I done it, you know, I sent the letter. Since later, Satan was bitching at Liz about it, you know.
And
Satan just...
Satan was hard to please.
Yeah.
She was very sensitive. She was a dressmaker.
Now, Sade and Liz took care of their mom, right?
Yeah.
They see what the
They lived together in the house. And I guess, now Sade was still living when I was little, and then she died when I was very young, and I remember going to her funeral.
Yeah.
See, Sate, the way they had a good arrangement, Sate was a dressmaker. She was very talented. And in the old days, you didn't have dress shops. And when people wanted gowns or dresses made, they went to her. She had a nice little business going.
I guess she was clever.
Right in her own home. But she was an introvert. She didn't want to go out. She didn't go to church. And but this is the way they worked out their living. She stayed home, made the dresses for people and customers, and Lizzie worked in the Waterbury Felt Company for a job there. So between the two of them, they eked out an existence. See?
Mm-hmm.
And then Sate died, and I guess I don't know how long after that, but Lizzie retired from the mill, but she still had the felts. They sent her the felts.
She used to get a belt to supplement her Social Security.
Yeah.
One time,
The only time Lizzie ever got mad at me was one time during, I guess, that summer when I was staying with her, that I came running into the kitchen of her house from the backyard. I was out playing with a cat or something, and somehow I made her, I screwed up what she was working on. She was working on a felt. I remember her saying that she was working, you know, and I made her lose count or something. I don't know what it was I did, but she got mad at me for something. It was the only time she ever got mad at me for anything.
She wasn't that type. She
Yeah.
wasn't mad at anybody.
Yeah, but it had to do with work, and it had to do with the Waterbury Felt Company. That's
Yeah.
all I knew.
Yeah.
You know, you're just little, and you know.
Yeah. That's a very tedious job. Taking these two felts, a flat-out felt, and making it into a belt. And that's what she was a joiner. What she did was just take these ends. The ends would be about that long when they cut it off with a loom, see?
Mm-hmm.
And both ends would have these ends of the threads that long, and some way she would weave those two threads together. And I don't know how the hell anybody would have the patience for all that felt would probably be 10, 12 feet long. And she'd have to start out from one end, and she couldn't drop a stitch.
Yeah, apparently
been
that's
the
what I
reason.
did, is I made her drop a stitch.
Yeah. I don't know how the hell but when you go in there and watch them, very little needles. And how the hell they ever did it. And she was good at it.
Do you know if either of those mills, that whether it was the Glenside or the Waterbury, whether they dealt in asbestos fabrics?
No, everything was woolen.
It was all wool.
All wool, yeah. Now the Waterbury company that Lizzie worked, sometimes they scorched after all this felt. This felt was manufactured into a belt. Then they would put this huge thing, which might be the length of this room or longer, and they would put it on these huge drums, which might have been 5 or 6 feet in diameter. And inside these drums was steam, hot steam. They called it scorching. And they would put that drum, or put Lizzie's work on there, and then they would start this scorching. And you would smell them. Remember how you could smell when they were doing that? Waterbury, and these two drums turned slowly, and the felt would go right around and just burn off the fuzz or something. And when that felt came off of there, it was like a shoe that they put in your car and your brakes.
Yeah.
It wasn't a soft blanket-like thing anymore. Well, sometimes the power would go off, and when the power went off, it scorched right through that whole damn felt. So what they did, they would take, it wasn't a loss, they took it and made Waterbury felt blankets out of it, pure wool blanket, and put a seam around a couple of them.
Well, that's why I had that be all winter long, 2 of them.
Yeah, he still
I
got
had one when I was little. If I remember right, it was like a
you couldn't buy
reddish colored blanket, and I remember.
Well, they paid a hell of a price for them back then.
100% wool. You couldn't get a blanket like that anyway. You see, it was just spoiled. No power went off. Something happened.
Oh, okay.
It was just had to be made and thrown away.
So they just sold it as a blanket.
Yeah, that's the only way you got blankets, and otherwise it'd be a belt. And it's something that just gone wrong during the process, like that.
But nowhere would you ever be able to buy a 100% wool blanket. But and they had made a business out of it after a while. People would come and they just didn't burn the blankets,
Well, what were these felts used for? Some,
Well, I told you, you went to that Palatka place.
they were used in paper mills and stuff
Yeah,
like that?
Paper mills.
Did you see the picture there on that thing tonight there, you break out paper mills, you
Mhm.
see the machines there that showed, that's where the felt went. It took the pulp
Yeah,
and the beater room
right.
and it went over
So
that.
the felts were what the pulp gets
It's
spread
an
out
apron,
on?
it's an apron, yeah.
Okay,
It's an apron that goes over that dryer and it comes out the other side, it goes rolled up in the paper. And Drake out used to be grouping paper.
And we called it broke.
Yeah, Curry broke, yeah. I used to, oh boy, we could get a job there, $3.20 a dollar, 40 cents a dollar, boy, oh boy, to be rich. I never did work there.
No.
I worked at Glenside for $16.22 for 48 hours. I started working.
well, Dad has a story about you working at that restaurant on Route 20, what was the name of it?
Krebs.
Krebs, yeah.
He was driving Model T and
I
they
didn't
told me.
talk about that the other night.
Yeah, tell him.
Yeah. I don't know, I almost caused him a lot of grief up there, I guess. And, I got a job there and $10 a week, wash some dishes. And, yeah, I was doing all right. But I was down in the refrigerator a lot, the walk-in cooler, and I like that milk, I like milk and ice cream and stuff like that. I used to go pretty good down in there. And then another thing is, I drove with Model T to work, and I never thought I parked in front of an antique shop. And everybody that come to see the thing there, they went in the antique shop said, oh, it's some guy that works over at Krebs is over there. And then we'll trot into Krebs and look for the guy that owned the antique and the Ford antique said, he fired me $10 a week.
And then he went in the service. You can tell him drive about.
I shipped into an artillery out in California, in Georgia. And the captain come down to see me. I was all squared away and had my duffel bag and my bed made, my bunk made, or cot made. And he got on the visit with me and get acquainted. And he says, where do you come from, Major? And I says, I come from Skaneateles. And he says, you know where Krebs is there? Oh, yes, sir. I says, I used to eat there every day. And he walked outside the tent and up towards his office. He turned around and come back. Major, he says, you must have done a pretty good job in civilian life, didn't you? And I said, no, sir, I just used to wash dishes at Krebs.
Terry and I ate at the Krebs last time we were up there. It was great.
Yeah, that was great at one time. The second best place in the whole damn
Yeah, his world.
world.
On that Route 20, that's the time. That's what he said. He would take Route 20 so he'd get to Krebs so he could eat there. That's what a lot of people do. Yeah, it's a great place.
We had one of our best dinners there, that's for sure.
And we used to, I can remember going there on Easter Sunday when I was, had a girl, you know, and after church, we'd go to Krebs for breakfast. $2, I can't believe it. And they would come around with this big tray. It was just a family style. You didn't have a menu.
Yeah.
And on this tray would be scrambled egg, bacon, sausage, the whole works, you know. And she just leaned down there and you just scrape
what
out
you
what you
want.
wanted.